King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Petrodragonic Apocalypse album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. They are an Australian psychedelic rock band, one of the most prolific bands in any genre out there. And I mean, how do you even start with this band? They have been very busy. Very, very busy since I started this blog a few years ago. And 3 or 4 years ago, I was making jokes about, artists like Ty Segall and bands like the OCs, about keeping up with them being fairly exhausting. And if you are new to their discographies, I don't envy you. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard's discography makes their discographies look like a cakewalk. They have been very consistently dropping albums for the last, decade or so. And honestly, usually you're getting an album from them a year. Multiple times they've dropped 3 or 4, maybe even 5 albums in a year. And for the most part, almost every single one of these albums, to an extent, are entirely different. But for me, it's also posed some real issues over the years because they put out so much material. A lot of it does kind of blend together with me. Like, a couple of the albums that they put out last year, I believe 3 of them, I reviewed all 4, but 3 of them almost completely blended together, and my reviews were, we've been here before, haven't we? But that's not to say that they haven't put out so much genuinely great material over the years. Whether it be the softer side of the band, like their Changes album of last year, or their Paper Mache Dream Balloon, or their more heavy psych stuff, their more throttling stuff, like Nonagon Infinity, I'm in Your Mind Fuzz, Murder of the Universe. You're also, pretty used to getting some weird left hooks from the band that you don't expect. Some work really well, like the environmental friendly robo-funk of Fishing for Fishies. Some of them just don't really work at all. Yeah, I'm looking exactly at you, Sketches of Brunswick East. God, that is so bland. So bland. But for the most part, I enjoy hearing King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard at their heaviest. Some of my favorite albums of theirs have been some of their more metal releases, like Infest the Rat's Nest, their thrash metal venture. But, while they have released a ridiculous amount of material in so little time, and they just seem to there seems to be no end in sight. Every once in a while, an album from them comes out and just completely stops me in my tracks. And here we are. I'm just gonna not even beat around the bush. This is the heaviest fucking thing that they've put out in a really, really, really long time. This album starts off with Motor Spirit, and yeah, it's freaking heavy. Like I was saying, Giz don't really break out the metal portion of their music too much, but when they do, it's usually completely balls to the wall, completely over the top, and it's usually hitting on all cylinders. The thunderous drums, solo after solo, the more aggressive vocals, yes please. Like, I love how genuinely pissed off this chorus comes off whenever it rolls around. It's so good. Now, this is an over 8-minute track. And there's a lot of very long tracks on this album, and if it's not for you, I get it. But for me, when King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard pull out all the stops and come out with an album that is distinctly about the end of humanity, then 9 times out of 10, you are getting an album that is just a ripper. And that groovy extended drum solo, who ordered this? But thank God you did. It goes on, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. Clearly with their discography, the band has always been versatile, but hearing something like this, it even shook me. It's hellish, it's campy, and a lot of fun. Then we have Supercell. I love this track from the first time that I heard this opening riff, and I'm just gonna say it right now. This should have been a single. This one has it all. I love the ballistic energy of this track that's just throttling forward. Like I said, the riff is fantastic. It's upbeat, it's pummeling, it is raw. And I love the way that this track just all comes to a head and just explodes for the chorus. It's probably the most straightforward track here, but it's just another awesome tune. The band don't slow down with Converge. This track is the heaviest one that we get here. And I do stress that. This This track is literally heavier than most of the metal that I've heard this year. It's explosive, it's got that gnarly riff, but most importantly, at the end of the day, it also has a ton of personality. I mean, it is campy as shit, man. It is so over the top. I mean, God have mercy on us all. Ah! I love the chorus that we get here as well, and the numerous breakdowns. I mean, listen, I'm gonna make a hot take here. This is the kind of stuff that I love hearing from King Gizzard the most. I can't promise you that I'll like their next album. I can't even promise you that their next album is gonna sound anything like this. But I love hearing the band get heavier and heavier and heavier, and that's what we get here. And the extended drum solo, once again, A+. With Witchcraft, this album takes a turn for the more winding and twisted. I mean, by this point in the album, I mean, forget any rails that this album started on. This track is completely off of them. I love the vocals on this track, which by the time this chorus rolls around, they come off of like, I don't know, like some kind of mantra. And I hope you like guitar solos, because this track has a lot of them. And you know what? If you don't like this track, I genuinely get it. This one has a hell of an instrumental break, and you might not be into that. But for me, it does a really good job of painting this album's very bleakish, hellish world. I believe my initial thoughts on Gila Monster were, how can I hate this? They haven't changed. You can argue that, you know what? They left their songwriting at home. You can argue that King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard have wrote a track that sounds exactly like this, maybe 8 times. But this is the sort of over-the-top weirdo blast that I will never, ever, ever get tired of hearing from the band. I mean, I love how freakishly joyous this track is in the King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard way. It is just insanely memorable. Dragon is really good, too. Like, I feel like the entire album leading up to this track has all just been a build-up for this. Solo after solo, jam after jam, and yes, it's over 9 minutes. And it is exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting at times, but it's also wildly triumphant. The intensity of the track, the commanding vocal performances, the hypnotic vocals as well. This is just a whole lot of fun. I mean, I can already tell you right now, this is going to be one of my more polarizing reviews of the year. And you know what? You can argue that they've done this album before. You can argue that it's a little bit too campy and ridiculous. But this is exactly where I want to hear King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. And this is easily one of the best rock albums that I've heard all year. This is easily one of the best albums that I've heard all year. I will say this though, Flamethrower, I don't absolutely hate it, but there's more to this track that I get like kind of lost with. It's still pretty thrilling, and you gotta give the band credit, because they are keeping up with the energy of the rest of this album, and that's no easy feat. But by this point, I do feel like this riff is a little bit recycled. It's not as crushing, and the songwriting here does seem to be one of the weaker moments on this album. But even with that, I still have a lot of really great things to say. For one, the aggression still remains, and I absolutely love that. And the campy vibes to it all. I mean, I eat that shit up, man. And this long, drawn-out drum solo, once again, that takes up a bulk of this track. It did really catch me by surprise once again, even though we've got plenty of that. I mean, it's not as strong as a finale as I'd hope, but I mean, if this is the worst track here, this is easily one of the best albums I've heard in any genre this year. And you might agree with me, you might disagree with me. This may be a campy pile of bullshit to you. It's a campy pile of bullshit to me too, but I eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard sound great on this album. I love hearing them in this element. I love hearing them this raw. I love hearing them this freaking heavy, man. And this is easily, you know, it's still a long album. It's about an hour long, but God, I'd rather listen to this than most rock music this year. It's very digestible and just a lot of freaking fun. Yeah, screw it. I'm feeling a light 9 on this album. Let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.